Hey guys, it's Paradise, and over the last few weeks we've seen a bunch of you asking in the comments how to level up your gameplay. Not with super specific guides, but with more general fundamentals that apply no matter what weapon you're using. So in today's video, we're pulling from our experience to break down some key concepts that will immediately help you play smarter and more efficiently. So let's dive in. One of the most important things to understand regardless of your weapon is how to actually deal damage, and that starts with motion values. Now, some guides overcomplicate this, but here's the simple version. Motion values are just percentages. They tell you how much of your weapon's base attack each move actually deals. For example, let's say you're using a greatsword with 100 attack. If you use the kick move and it has a motion value of 5, it means you're going to apply 5% of that base attack, which in this case would be 5 damage. Understanding which of your moves hit hard and which ones don't is a game changer, as it allows you to prioritize certain combos based on the scenario. But keep in mind, this is a simplified foundation. That number gets further modified by things like sharpness, hit zones, elemental values, buffs, and more. Also, motion values are only part of the puzzle. You also need to consider the speed of the attack. A fast move with a decent motion value might end up dealing more damage over time than a slower move with a higher motion value. If you want to see the full motion value breakdown for your weapon, we've linked a fantastic document below in the description by 717999VLR. Just remember that patch updates can change these values, so it may not always be 100% up to date. Hit zones are another big factor that separates good players from advanced players. You can be mechanically skilled and pull off crazy moves, but if you don't understand hit zones, you're limiting your potential. Hit zones are basically damage multipliers for different parts of a monster's body. Think of it like this. If the monster's head has a hit zone value of 70 and the arm has a value of 20, hitting the head gives you way more damage. But back to our greatsword example. If your move deals 5 damage, hitting a 70 value zone will deal 3.5 damage, while hitting the arm with 20 would only give you 1. It is a big difference. Again, we have super simplified this here, but this is just a base of knowledge that makes endgame monsters a bit easier to navigate. We recommend checking out Arekkz for up-to-date hit zone values, and while there is a system in-game to check them, the values are kind of vague and only represented as stars, which means 2 hit zones could have 3 stars, but one is actually much higher in its value. But you also want to make sure you're checking for your right weapon category. Blunt weapons include hammers and hunting horns. Severing weapons include greatswords, longswords, and other bladed weapons, while ranged hit zones apply to bowguns and the bow. This gets especially important if you're using skills like Weakness Exploit, which activates on zones with a 45 or higher value. So understanding hit zones and how they work for your weapon is a great way to make your build more consistent. Next up is a more general tip, but it is still critical. Don't just learn your weapon, learn the enemy too. Monsters have a set pool of moves and attacks, and once you understand their patterns, you can use your weapon knowledge to capitalize on them. If you study them, you'll notice their flow. They attack, they recover, and then you attack in that window. The better you get at spotting these moves, the more damage you deal and the less you get hit. If you know what's coming your way, you can plan your big hits around it, and that's how you start playing proactively, not just reacting to whatever comes your way. A good example of this is that when Arekkz flees, he usually follows up with a slam that you can then be ready for and use the downtime to get even more damage out. Now, even good players can get caught out by a monster's roar, but advanced players generally don't, and that's because they know the tells. Every monster has a specific animation that they do before they roar. They might freeze, lift their head, raise an arm, or something like that. Once you start spotting these, you can then learn to dodge them, counter them, or guard them before the roar even hits. Take Arekkz for example. He lifts his head right before he roars, and if you can recognize this, you can time your counter perfectly and avoid ever getting roared by him again. Now, have you ever seen someone hunt a monster where the monster just never gets a chance to fight back? That's usually because someone knows how to force multiple staggers or breaks at the right times. You don't always want to tunnel vision on the monster's head. Sometimes focusing a specific part, such as Arekkz's chain blades, not only gives you good hit zone damage, but can also trigger a knockdown, a topple, or a CC animation. But here is the thing, if you break too early or too late, you can overlap these effects, much like status procs, which will cancel out a lot of these windows. So great players will time their breaks for maximum value, and you can do it too with just a little bit extra awareness. An easy CC that we've seen many people miss out on that makes tempered monster fights an absolute breeze are the tempered blue wounds. Most of the time, popping these wounds will do an instant topple on the monster if the monster isn't doing a crazy animation as you do it. So always go for those tempered wounds for extra knockdowns. In Monster Hunter Wilds, Capcom have added a new heartbeat monitor to the monster UI as well, and it looks pretty cool, but it's actually practical. When the heartbeat looks like this and is close to flatlining, this means the monster is at around 30% health. This is near the upper range of the capture threshold. It's not 100% guaranteed, so you may need to do a little bit more damage, but it gives you a clear heads up that you can capture the monster soon. Think of it like an early warning system before the skull icon appears on the map. Now, mounting is another thing that we see players fumbling, especially in multiplayer. A failed mount does equal a huge damage loss, so here's how it works. Weapon attacks generally do higher damage, but don't tend to build up wounds quite as quickly due to the animation time. Light knife attacks build up wounds very fast and deal little damage, while strong knife attacks are slower, but are better at creating wounds than light attacks. Your goal will be to build up as many wounds as possible before the monster runs out of stamina, so you can land your big meaty mount finisher. Most players don't even look at the stamina bar at the bottom of the screen. It shrinks and turns red when you are close to being thrown off the monster. This will drain as your mount progresses. The monster will constantly be trying to shake you off, and you can avoid this by bracing, which slowly drains your stamina, or switching to a different part on the monster. You can actually still kind of yeet monsters like you could in Iceborne. If you stay latched onto the monster's head, it will try to shake you off by running towards a collidable object. But if you jump to a different part of its body just before the impact, it will slam into it, get stunned, and often take damage. Some of the moves inflict much higher mount damage than others, such as the jumping charge slash level 3, which does a ton of mount damage. Now next is something that seems basic, but many people forget about it. If you're getting slapped around by a monster that shouldn't be a problem for you, then check your defense stat. Just upgrading your armor with armor spheres can make a huge difference, and with harder monsters finally coming in future updates, this is going to matter even more than ever. So don't sleep on this, and there's even some event quests that become available over time that will give additional armor sphere rewards. So make sure to keep an eye out on what the current event quests are, as they make farming things like spheres much easier. Now these are just some of the tips that we thought would help someone looking to improve at Monster Hunter in general, at least from what we've been observing during hunts and watching streams. But do let us know if there's anything you want us to simplify and deep dive into. Also give your tips below for fellow hunters so we can all learn as a community, and subscribe for more Monster Hunter coming your way very, very soon. Here at Arekkz Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 2-6.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.